And then ultimately, when I got to the airport, Trump's jet was right out there on the tarmac, right in front of where my plane was going to be taking off. And my flight ended up getting delayed about 2 hours. I am very confident when I say that Trump's interview with Rogan had something to do with just that. And so the interview did happen. I listened to the entire thing. I've been looking at the commentary online. It's about where you would expect it to be. The commentary ranges from "It's the greatest interview I've ever heard" to "Trump is the dumbest person on the face of the planet." Um, it's probably something in the middle. I think that there were, I don't know how many of you who are here in the audience right now, and obviously if you are here, make sure to smash that like button, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. And again, I know this is an unusual time to be going live, but like I said, I just felt that this made the most sense to just come on for a little while and talk about it. And obviously, we're going to play some clips. Um, it was a 3-hour interview, very impressive on Trump's part, especially at his age. He has an incredible amount of energy, especially for a guy who doesn't really take good care of himself. I know everyone has their opinions about what he may or may not be doing in order to maintain that level of energy, which is very impressive. Um, what I will say is there were several parts of the interview that I don't think are really relevant. That ends up happening. He went really deep into well, they both did. They both went into their love for MMA, mixed martial arts, their lauding of Dana White. Look, I like MMA. I'll be out and about. I'll watch it. It is a very skillful, you know, fighting profession, if you will. But there's obviously a lot of problems with the way that mixed martial arts does business, the way that Dana White does business. No surprises there whatsoever. So they really went into that. Trump's knowledge of the fight world is actually very extensive. I can tell that Rogan was definitely impressed with that, and they certainly like talking about it to a great length, and that obviously is not surprising. There was a point at the beginning of the interview where Trump really got sidetracked into talking about the Lincoln bedroom, but look, it was his way of talking about how privileged he felt to be there, to be in that room, to be in that element. Um, it was a story that went topsy turvy. I would say that's probably a nice way of saying it. But it dragged. It wasn't necessary. And then, of course, Rogan talks about how he had to bring Trump back to the fray, back to reality, if you will. Um, there were some other points of the interview that were considered high and low. Trump still talks about how he didn't lose, or he did lose, but he didn't really lose. Listen, I've been saying for the longest time that we have a serious problem in this country. And one of the things that doesn't get talked about enough is how the electoral system is one that not a lot of people trust, and they shouldn't trust. I think ID should be required. I think we should have hand marked paper ballots. I've been saying this for a long time. And you know who else said it? Trump said it. This should not be controversial. And yet, for some reason, it apparently is. Trump also said some pretty outlandish stuff over the course of the interview, including being a whale psychiatrist. Yeah, he said that. Interesting. Uh, he kind of dodged the issue of Israel, didn't really get into it. I don't know if it was Rogan trying to get him into it or not. I would say, and mutualist, you're right. He never directly mentioned Gaza in the interview. Well, what he did say, what he did ask, Rogan did address this, and I believe it is part of one of the clips, is to say, well, if you get in, what are you going to do to end this massacre that's going on in Gaza? And Trump really didn't answer the question as far as that's concerned. Now, it is unfortunate, um, but this is where we are right now. We're stuck with an administration that is full on supporting a genocide and a potential next president who could end up doing the same exact thing, if not worse, or maybe not as worse. We don't know. And I do think that there were some important points that were talked about in the interview, and we're going to play those clips. But the one that I thought was very interesting was the one right off the bat pertaining to CNN. And this was in an early part. This was in the first hour of the interview with Rogan and Trump. So here's what went down.
So I always got more publicity than other people. And it wasn't like I was trying. In fact, I don't know exactly why. Maybe you can tell me why.
Oh, I could definitely tell you. You said a lot of wild shit.
Maybe. Maybe
You said a lot of wild shit, and then CNN, in all their brilliance, by highlighting your wild shit, made you much more popular.
Yeah.
That is 1,000% true. But remember, everything as it relates to Trump, as long as he's going to be around, is predicated on how much they can drive the ratings. That's what it's about. That is the top priority. As long as Trump is there, as long as he's in the spotlight, especially if he wins the presidency again, everything is about driving ratings with Trump, trying to highlight the most outlandish, far-fetched, superficial stuff that can come out of his mouth. And that is what CNN has always done and will continue to do as long as they're around. Hopefully not forever.
And they boost you in the polls because people were tired of someone talking in this bullshit, pre-prepared politician lingo. And even if they didn't agree with you, they at least knew whoever that guy is, that's him. That's really him. Yeah. When you see certain people talk, certain people in the public eye, you don't know who they are. You have no idea who they are. It's very difficult to know. You see them in conversations. They have these pre-planned answers. They say everything. It's very rehearsed. You never get to the meat of it. One of the beautiful things about you is that you freeball. Like, you get out and you do these huge events and you're just talking and you're making. We've highlighted you on the show many times when you did this Biden impression where he's walking around, he doesn't know what he's doing. It's funny. It's stand up. It's funny stuff. But it's like.
And he's right. And this is one of the appeals of Trump that I think people really underestimate. He's a funny guy. That's really what I don't think people truly understand. And that was one of the takeaways from the interview. The things that a number of the vote blue no matter who's, the Dem establishment people that were really hammering home, oh, this was terrible, et cetera, et cetera. But the truth is, Trump has great comedic timing. Like, he's just good. And I think people really underestimate, because of the fact that we're such a celebrity-obsessed culture, that his ability to lighten the mood, especially since politics is such a serious business, it's such a detrimentally evil business in so many ways, that he brings a certain type of alternative approach that I think appeals to a lot of people that would otherwise want nothing to do with politics.
And you were making fun of Elon one time. You were doing an Elon impression. It's great. You have like comedic instincts. Like when you said to Hillary, you'd be in jail. Like that's great timing. Yeah. But it's like that kind of stuff was unheard of as a politician. Like no one had done that.
He's right. No one has done it, and no one else is doing it, at least nowhere near to the effect that Trump is capable of doing it. And that, in many ways, is what he has done to define himself in this particular era. Because now that people are looking at politics in a different capacity, they're also looking at their elected officials in a different capacity and realizing just how terrible most of them really are.